Hello guys, and sadly welcome back to my kitchen. Well, I have very sad news for everyone. My basil infused oil, the glass weight, see that glass weight that's holding the peppermint down? The glass weight in my basil slid off to the side and fell down to the bottom of the jar. And because I had it in a dark spot and I didn't check on it every day, the basil floated up to the top and got moldy. So all that oil and all that basil gone. But I'm not giving up, you guys. I'm still going to show you how to make it. As long as your basil is fine, the jar did not slide down, the basil stayed below the oil line, and all of your basil is good and not moldy, you can still do your project. I'm going to still do my project, except for instead of having the oil having been infused and sat for 6 weeks and been all tasty, I'll just have to use the oil and fresh herbs right away, which is okay. We can still do this, and I'm going to still show you what to do. But lesson learned, you guys, for myself, and I hope a lesson for you. Make sure that it's weighted. Make sure you, sorry, I'm not in the camera. Make sure it's weighted. Make sure you check on it, and make sure that that weight didn't fall off to the side. No, you have basil up at the top, all oily and icky. Alright, well, I'm going to end this portion of the video right here. And I'll come back and show you how we're going to do it, or how you would do it using your basil infused oil. But for me, it's just going to be all fresh herbs. Alright, you guys, let's get to this. Alright, guys, here we go. As you know, the oil got ruined because the glass jar, or the glass weight, slid off to the side. So we're going to have to quote-unquote redo the infusion, but it's not going to sit and be infused for 6 weeks like I had with the last stuff. It's going to all have to be done right away, which is okay because it shows people that you can do this with fresh herbs also, because not everybody has access to being able to pick fresh herbs and let it sit for that long of a period of time. And I have done it both ways, so it's not a big deal. So we're going to start with our basil. And we're going to do like we did when we did the oil infused. We're just going to cut it all up, get it all in our crock pot. If your oil is already infused and you didn't have your weight fall down and you didn't have your oil go bad, at this stage, dump all your oil and your basil oil into the crock pot. Alright. So, I got my sweet basil in the crock pot. We'll pretend that this is my basil infused oil. Now, word of advice, make sure you check on your infused oil on a regular basis. I had mine in a dark spot in the closet and never checked on it, and if I had checked on it, I would have realized that one time that I had tripped and fallen when I was in the room and accidentally hit the closet door because I was carrying a bunch of stuff and tripped, I would have realized I had caused my jar to jostle and knocked the glass right over, the glass weight off, and ruined all my oil. So, important tip. Make sure you keep it in a dark spot, but you check on it every day. to make sure your glass hasn't fallen. All right. Sweet basil. I've got a little bit of holy basil here. Now, of course, okay, sweet basil, must. Rosemary. I don't have, my rosemary didn't grow this year, which is very depressing for me. Ugh. But that's okay, because I grow my rosemary for this exact recipe. And you want full stems and all right in there. The full stem. Don't cut it, don't break it down. We want full stem in it. Then, next one. Thyme. Again, full stem. We do not want to break these ones down. Now, at this point you can quit because the rosemary, the thyme, and the basil together make an excellent oil-infused garlic yumminess. But I like to add other stuff also. We're going to add those, however, on top of the garlic. So, I happen to have garlic this way. I get it at Costco. This is the perfect season for it. These are, and this is heirloom. That's really important. You want to try to make sure that you get as much heirloom, non-GMO as you can. If you, I mean, of course it's your choice, not mine. But I like heirloom. Heirloom is great. I have done it with elephant garlic before. Now that is amazing. And I've also done it with walking garlic. That is awesome also. Alright. A nice thick layer of garlic. And then we're going to top it off. And this big old bunch of herbs here I'm about to cut up. I have 3 different kinds of parsley. I have curled parsley. I have Italian parsley. And I have giant leaf parsley. And then I have oregano. We're just going to put it all over the top of it. Now you don't have to add these if you don't want to, like I said. Just the rosemary, thyme, and basil alone make it phenomenal. I've also got one more secret ingredient that I like to add. However, I will warn you, this secret ingredient is very strong, very overpowering, and some people may not like the flavor, but in our house, we do. I'll grab it right now. Ooh, I can't wait. Nope, that's not it. I've got 2 jars in here that look exactly the same. Where did it go? I should have grabbed it beforehand. Hang on, guys. Alright, here it is, you guys. Like I said, this is a ingredient that a lot of people might not like. It's very strong, very overpowering. It is the stems of lavender. You can get lavender leaf or lavender leaf stems. And I get the lavender leaf stems, and I literally add just a tiny bit. Alright, next step. You take oil. Any kind of oil you want, any kind of oil you like. If you want to go with basic vegetable oil, you can do that. I really like the grapeseed oil. I have done it with olive oil and it works. I've done it with hemp seed oil. It's okay, but the hemp seed oil does change the flavor in a way that you might not enjoy. We use hemp seed oil in our house for our son. I have a son that falls on the autism spectrum scale, and hemp seed oil really helps wonderfully. Do your research on hemp seed oil before you leave any comments down below. Hemp seed oil does not have any whatsoever of the I don't even know what it is. The CBD, CB, that is the good stuff. It doesn't have any of the THC in it. The hemp seed oil has no THC. It is only the CBD, BDC, whatever that is. So it's really good for him, and it's got the amino acids in it, which are really good for him. But for this recipe, I've come to discover that we really like the grapeseed oil. And we're just gonna fill it up. We want to have the oil all the way up to, and if possible, covering it all up. If you have to get more oil to make sure it's completely covered, that would probably be best, which is going to end up being what I have to do. I will have to go get more oil to make sure that it's all underneath of the oil line, especially once we put it in our jar. However, if we let this just sit here and cook for a little bit, it will cook down a little bit and be a bit more under the oil line, but you want to make sure that there's oil covering it. You want to make sure that even when it's done cooking and you go to pack it in the jars, the oil is covering it. Because you don't want to have happen to this, what happened to my basil. Once this is cooked and you stick it in your refrigerator, as long as the oil is above it, all this stuff is cooked, so it'll settle down to the bottom of the jar and you're not going to have a weight. But for now, I'm just going to pop the lid on this. So I have to run and get another bottle of oil in order to have it covered. You want to turn the temperature on medium or high, depending upon how your crock pot cooks. All crock pots cook differently. Depending upon how your crock pot cooks, you don't want to have it so hot that it gets a bubbly boiling going on. That will kind of give it a funny, not quite burnt taste. This crock pot of mine does not get extremely hot even on high, so I turn it on high. If your crock pot doesn't have high and has a low, and the high setting on your crock pot is really hot, do not use a high setting. Alright, so all we're going to do is turn it on and you let it cook for 4 to 6 hours. Even upwards of 12 if you really want the flavors to infuse together. And then all we're going to do is stick it in a jar and stick it in the fridge. And whenever you cook anything, well, not anything, but whenever you cook Italian foods, or it's really good in pasta dishes, it's really good with chicken. It's overall excellent flavor. So at the moment, I'm going to plug it in and turn it on, and we'll be back. I will end up having to get more oil, and when we come back, you will see more oil in there. Alright guys, we'll be back. Alright guys, there we have it. They cooked for 6 hours. Everything is nice and evenly cooked through. We want it so that the garlic is squishy. See that? But we don't want to overcook it and get it boiling so you end up fried. Now, next thing we're going to do is put it all in the jars. But first, we're going to carefully go through here, pull out all the big sticks. I need to grab a plate, you guys. Now, we're going to want to keep all the main bulk of the herbs in there, but we're going to grab these sticks out. Because a lot of the herbs fell off of the stems. We want to grab garlic, we want just the stems. Oh, this smells so wonderful, you guys. Now, you can leave the stems in there and stick them on the bottom of the jar if you want. But I like to try to grab out as many of these stems as possible, just so that stuff fits in the jar better. Alright, and then we're just gonna fill the jar up. Like I said, little stems can go in there, but I try to pull out as much of the big ones as I can. And then after I get all the garlic off, I top it off with the oil. So I'm going to do that and I'll be back, you guys. There it is, you guys. I got a ½ gallon. And this is all the garlic. Most of the garlic. There's a couple pieces in here, but this is most of the garlic and most of the herbs. And again, important tip, make sure that it stays below the oil line, okay? Below. You cannot have oxygen. You cannot have oxygen getting to any of this here because it could lead to molding. Now, another important tip. This goes in the fridge. We have cooked this. We have brought this up to heat. We have caused the fatty acids in the oil to cook and break down. So it must go in the fridge. Now, this is not going to go bad overnight. Heck no. I've had, well, this doesn't last long in my house. The longest this has ever lasted in my house is to almost Valentine's Day. So, the beginning of February. And I use it for all kinds of things. If I'm browning hamburger, for tacos or spaghetti, I open it up. I grab some of the herbs and the garlic and throw it right in the pan along with my meat that I'm browning. And voila! Amazing flavor. Now over here, this is just mostly the oil. Oh, I cannot explain enough how amazing just the oil is. I use it when I'm like making oven fried chicken or pork chops, anything like this. I put some of this in the pan on top of the chicken. The flavor is just phenomenal, especially if you were lucky enough to have your glass weight stay on top of your herbs and you don't have a ½ gallon worth of herbs go bad. If it was the infused oil before you got to cooking, the flavor is even more amazing. It works just fine with fresh. But if you got lucky enough, make sure you check on your oils on a regular basis. My other oils that I'm doing, my facial scrub oil with the peppermint, that'll be a project that I'll be working on in the next couple days. All the leaves stayed down and under the weight, so they're fine. And the facial scrub oil, I will be filming in a few days. My astringent that I make out of peppermint and rubbing alcohol and hydrogen peroxide and witch hazel, all of those herbs, peppermint, stayed below the oxygen line because of the weight. So I'll be also showing you that. That astringent is so easy, and it's a facial spot cleaner. That's wonderful. I love doing infused oils, infused facial scrubs, infused all kinds of things using herbs. And always make sure your weight is correct. Hang on, I'll be back in 1 second. Alright guys, I'm back. Not sure quite where I left off, but let's see where I can remember. Okay, we talked about keeping it below the line. I know that. We talked about how I use it for browning, to brown it with hamburger or Italian sausage. When I'm making any number of Italian dishes, the garlic is amazing. I believe we also covered how I use the oil like on top of chicken for oven fried chicken and pork chops and all of that. So I think I've covered everything. The only advice and tip I can give you is make sure you keep the garlic and the herbs below the oxygen line, which means don't take the oil off the top. Use the oil out of the other one and just grab the garlic. We want to keep the garlic and herbs and everything below oxygen so it doesn't go bad. And since it's actually cooked garlic and herbs, they automatically fall to the bottom, so we don't have to worry about a weight like we did beforehand. Alright guys, I hope this gave you some wonderful ideas. I hope it all turns out good for you. I will be redoing another basil infused oil once I have another round of basil ready to go. I had just cut a bunch of basil to put in here, so I don't have any basil to do a new oil infused basil. I have to wait a little while. And next time I do it, I think one of the things I'm going to do differently is instead of putting my oil and basil in a big half gallon like I did this time, generally I put them in quarts and have 2 quarts going, which I think I'm going to do because this jar is so big for those glass weights. It slipped and fell so easy. Oh, I can't believe I rinsed all that oil and all that basil. That was, oh. Anyways, moving on. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you lots of great ideas. And I will see you guys in the next one. And remember everyone, stay positive. You can do it too. Bye!